Minister, who's in the country to assess the two nations' bilateral engagements. Over to you, Vivian.
A very good afternoon to you too, Abby, and thank you for making time for this very special interview that we have today on Business Today. And today I am joined by President Emmanuel Macron's special envoy, Mr. Frank Riester, who is also his minister delegate for trade. And we're going to be having an interesting conversation with him. So thank you so much for joining us today, sir. So on to my first question. What should investors expect from the recently signed agreement between the Kenya private sector and MEDEF?
It's even more a company of the projects of the different companies. It's one of our objectives in President Macron's policies in terms of increase of the relationship between France and Kenya is to support the relationship between companies. And for that, private sector organizations have a major role to play in this direction. And so for KEPSA and for MEDEF, it's very important to be part of this objective. And with the signature of this agreement, I'm sure that all the companies involved in this strengthening of our relationship will benefit from them a very good support on all they need in terms of financing, in terms of information, in terms of how to build the best partnerships between our companies.
Kenya is transitioning into a middle-income country. What investment opportunities is France seeing in the country right now?
What is very clear for us is that Kenya is a major in the future, for the future in the region. That's why we really are committed to be more present here in Kenya and more decided to build many partnerships in different fields with Kenya, and specifically in economy and trade. And we see that in terms of sustainable cities, in terms of environment, in terms of agri-food business, in terms of health sector, in terms of tech as well, we have many things to do together. And we think that the pro-business agenda of President Kenyatta and his government is a good signal for our companies to increase their investments in the different sectors and to even more answer the needs of the authorities, both national authorities and local authorities.
There have been discussions in different sectors that European countries, this is France included, and the West seem to be missing out on investment opportunities in Africa, especially Kenya, and they're lagging behind China. What's your take on this?
My thought is we have a different way of viewing the relationship with Africa, with East Africa and with Kenya. We want a long-term partnership, win-win partnership, mutual beneficial partnership. So we think that in terms of debt, in terms of RSE commitments, in terms of help, in terms of expertise, share of and transfer of technology, we do not do the same thing than companies or countries, for instance, like China. We are really committed with our companies that our investments and our partnerships to be long-term. And we want to be when in the country, when things goes in the good direction, or when things are right or good, but also when there are some difficulties. And it was the case during the COVID-19 crisis. Our companies and people within our companies stayed in the country. They did not come back to France. They stayed here because even when it's difficult for Kenya or for our partners, we stay in the country. And we want to build very strong partnership and that could include more and more sustainable development concerns, because it's the way we want to build this partnership. Respect of the environment, respect of people working within the companies and respect the will of the country.
Let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 pandemic. How is France helping Kenya recover from the harsh effects of the pandemic?
We have helped Kenya, and we still help Kenya, thanks loans and grants to invest in hospitals for equipments for fighting against COVID-19. Thanks to grants, dons of doses of vaccines, and now we are at more than 530,000 doses granted to Kenya, and we continue to have some grants to help socially the people to have access to the doses, and we'll continue to accompany the country for COVID-19 crisis, but more largely for health issues and for health sector.
Are we going to see a relaxation of rules that's going to allow African countries to manufacture their own vaccines?
Yeah, I think it's very important, and we think that we need to do all our best so that within Africa it could have enough capacity of production of vaccines within Africa. So we have to share the expertise, to share the way we produce vaccines, and France is supporting different initiatives in this field. But it's true for COVID-19 crisis, for COVID-19 disease, but it's true for other pandemic or other disease in the future, because a long-term partnership has to go through this kind of partnership to help African countries to build their own production of vaccines locally.
Okay. There has been an issue when it comes to vaccine distribution. There are countries that have bought excess vaccines to an extent where they're now giving a third shot to their population, but African countries are even struggling to get these vaccines. What do you think can be done about this?
Well, the way we tackle the issue is grants for the doses of vaccines, and I have explained that France was really committed with Kenya for that. It's grants to finance some equipment to fight against COVID-19. There are vaccines, but there are also many different ways to tackle the disease and to address the problem. That's our objective, to help Africa to have its own capacity of production, of value chain production of vaccines. But we think, and as Minister for Foreign Trade, it's important as well, is to see how trade could help to ease the access to vaccines, with fighting against exportation restrictions, and to more share the intellectual property to help countries to build their own production of vaccines. And that's what we are doing in the negotiation within WTO. And next December, at the beginning of December, we hope that we have a success, a result, to build the good framework to facilitate the access to vaccines in different ways, even in the production of vaccines locally. That's the objective of Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Nigerian president, the Director General, of the WTO, and that's the objective of France and the EU.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. We appreciate you for making time to join us today, and it's really an honor to be able to speak to you. Well, Abby, as you've heard, very soon, not only Kenya, but the entire of the African continent is going to be able to manufacture their own